The Way We Were, how big a deal for you at that time? Was that kind of like an awing experience for you?
You know, I had done a lot of theater, and I felt very confident about my ability as an actor. It's interesting how that confidence can make a difference. So everybody else is kind of like astounded that there was, in the flesh, Robert Redford and Barbra Streisand. And I was thinking, you know, this dame can sing. I wonder if she can act. Which I said to her the first time I met her. I mean, we were standing there, and like nobody introduced us. And I'm not kidding you, 10,000 people standing. We were filming at a college, and they were all going, Barbra Streisand is here, you know, Robert Redford. So, you know, they said, okay, Jimmy, what's your name, kid? Jimmy, okay, this is a scene with you and her, just a quick cut. You stand over here next to Barbara. And I go, great. I'm standing there like, nobody introduces us. She's like, here, 10,000 people. She said, are you afraid of me? And I said, are you joking? She said, what do you mean? I said, hey, when they say action, I can act. The question is, can you? And we've been friends ever since. She said, well, you got a lot of balls for a fucking skinny kid. You know? I said, well, thank you. But we ended up being good friends, and she turned out to be not a bad actress, as it turned out. No, she's great. Barbara's really aces, and she was really, you know, she just loved anybody, you know, would stand up, you know. And we had a ball making that movie.
Well, I like gutsy moves that actors do to get parts. Your audition for Borboy.
Yeah.
What did you do to get that part?
You know all my secrets. I can't believe this. They wanted only English or Irish actors for the part, real ones, living in New York. And I thought that was kind of discriminatory. You know, I was a big activist then. I couldn't care less. And I remember thinking, well, this is unfair. So the stage manager who would call all the actors in, you know, that you'd have to have an appointment. You couldn't just walk in off the street. So I sneaked into the theater and was hiding in the wings. And when he went to the men's room, I came out and I said, "Oh, Phil said I should come out while he was at the men's room, you know." But I did it, you know, how y'all doing? You know, Phil said I should come out, yeah, you know. And I did all this English accent, and I auditioned and got the part. And the director said to me, he said, "Oh, that's great." He said, "Now how long have you been in the United States?" I said, "Oh, you know, 23 years, whatever age I was." He said, "Well, you've been here the whole time?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, how old are you?" I said, "Oh, 23. He said, "Well, when were you in England?" I said, "I've never been there. Is it nice?" I said, "But we only wanted real English people." I said, "Well, you hired me, you putz. Shut up and thank your lucky stars." Good old American labor. There you go.
Hey, James, I've always been interested in the unusual jobs that actors have before they become actors.
Right.
Now, didn't you used to work at the Speidel watch factory?
I was a Watchman Packer for Speidel for an entire season. All I did was stand. This is amazing. I used to stand on this assembly line, and this big display case would come, and the slot would open, and these 10 watch bands would come down, and you'd take them and put them in these slots one at a time. And because I was really super skilled labor, I got not only to put the watch bands in, but I got to be the guy at the end who also took this big plastic bag and went whoosh, and put them over the top, which we used to refer to as bagging the dork. So, because it was a big, tall display case. So I was a Watchman Packer and a dork bagger as well. And I'll still remember, we worked 9.5 hours a day, half hour for lunch, 2 10-minute breaks, no talking, no sitting.
Well,
I still remember the woman who was our foreperson. This was pre-feminist days, so she was just an overt, you know, harridan. You know, it wasn't institutionalized yet, you know. And she, her name was Marcia, and she was going to be a second grade school teacher, and I just thought there's another generation of children's lives destroyed. And she was, she bought a Mustang. It was 1965. The car's probably worth more than her whole career. She bought a Mustang. We used to call her Marcia Mustang. And she'd say, "Wally," who was the main foreman. Wally's this little guy with a cigar. Hey. They'd say, "Wally, Jimmy and Tony are talking." You know, it's like, yeah, packing a Watchman. You know, I mean, well, how much concentration does it take to go do this? You know, all day long.
Well, turning to Nixon, I know you've made numerous movies and worked on various sets. How did people in the studio react to the White House sets differently than other sets?
You know, it was actually a closed set, so the only people who ever saw those sets were the people on our staff and crew. Once in a great while, we had visitors, and the one time we had visitors was to the Lincoln Memorial scene, because at the last minute we weren't allowed to shoot at the Lincoln Memorial because it's under construction in Washington. So we rebuilt the Lincoln Memorial. No small feat to do in 2 weeks. I mean, that Lincoln is full size, full scale, and I mean, they had like 50 guys there carving, you know, whatever they used, whatever material it was that they used to make that set. that drew a lot of attention because you walk in and there was the Lincoln Memorial on a soundstage, and I mean it was awesome to walk in. You know, it was lit. I mean, it would take your breath away. You realize how big that sculpture is. You know.
You know, a few years ago, one of our reporters flew back with the president on Air Force One, and he stole the official U.S. Air Force One movie guide for me, which I have framed.
Right.
You wore a jacket in this movie, I think a White House jacket. So what kind of mementos did you keep from the film?
Actually, I kept mementos from. It's so weird. You know, Bill Clinton, you know, has a penchant for eating, you know, junk food, and Tony and Oliver and I went to the White House, and we got the tour that nobody else gets. You know, like I sat in the president's chair in the Oval Office and at his desk, which, when you think about it, nobody gets to do. It's not like Brezhnev comes into the White House and says, "Can I sit in your chair?" I mean, so like nobody gets in the Oval Office. Staff certainly doesn't sit in the president's chair, and you know, foreign dignitaries don't, and you know, not many actors are allowed to come to the White House. So you know, the only guys who sit in those chairs are presidents, and of course Oliver Stone and Tony Hopkins and Jimmy Woods, because we went to Washington together. And then they brought us in the Situation Room, which even Clinton's secretary said, "I've never been in the Situation Room." You know, Situation Room's like if there's a nuclear war. And that was pretty exciting. And on the way out, they have M&Ms and lifesavers with the presidential seal on them. I said, you know, this porker has like, you know, has to have like presidential candy. You know, I mean, it's very funny. It's very sweet. But we actually got, you know, so I have boxes of presidential, you know, seal of the president of the United States, M&Ms. You know.
Yeah, you know, we're doing a sidebar story about movie screen villains,
right?
And how people react to them. I remember when you hosted Saturday Night Live, the opening. It was just great with the audience and the SWAT team coming in.
That's right.
Well, what kind of memorable reactions have you gotten from people who may or may not have recognized you from movies, but do you ever sense a fear from people?
No, but people are always kind of surprised to find out. You know, that I'm a nice guy, you know what I mean? Because I mean, I am. I just, you know, I always sign autographs, and, you know, I like that people are fans, and, you know, I mean, I got a great life. I'm in a good mood all the time, pretty much. So they're kind of surprised to see that. I guess they think you're going to be around snarling, you know, with a Uzi shooting up 7-Elevens or something. But, you know, in fact, you know, we have a, you know, pretty good life going, knock on wood. So, but people are smarter than you think. I mean, that's like most people say, "Gee, I love when you play the bad guy." And I mean, they're pretty hip about it, you know. They know, because also they know me a lot from talk shows, and they see, you know, how I really am, and they can see the dichotomy. But I think in the old days, it was probably tougher when there wasn't so much chance to get to know your villain, so to speak, you know, and you couldn't see, you know. I mean, Jack Palance never went, you know, in the old days, you know, when he was the villain, you know, never went on the Tonight Show and showed that he wasn't. You know, television makes a big difference.